I mean, for me, with a new piece of gear, it's about how it enters your workflow and how much it changes your workflow as soon as it does. You know, if I buy a new piece of gear and it's like sitting on the shelf for 3 weeks, I get rid of it. With the Burl, I mean, it is the centerpiece of the studio. It was like an overnight, more so than even getting my Neve, I think. When I started working with the Burl stuff, it gave me the ability to do what I hear in my head. I started recording my rock band as like my entry into the recording process. I was just making demos, and it got very systematic at one point for me. Like I would get the drums, and then I would edit the drums, and then I would get the bass and edit the bass, and I did that for decades. And then I realized, like, you know, as I started collecting more gear and having more inputs, I realized that the way to record is to get the best musicians in the same room and capture an actual performance. You know, I never was happy with the conversion that I had before. I got the Neve. I had some API preamps. I've had some awesome microphones and compressors, and it just didn't sound as full as I wanted. Navon at Vintage King told me about the Burl stuff. I knew that Dave Cobb was using it. Dave and I have the same manager, and I love Dave's records. So I went in and I got the mothership, and I mean, it was amazing. With this studio, I have Burl mothership 24 ins, and then I try to record all of those when I'm getting my basics. And I'll keep the overdubs to a minimum. We still overdub, of course, but I try to get drums, keyboard, bass, guitar, all at the same time, which is hard to do in like a guest house kind of studio. I have, you know, an isolated drum situation, isolated guitar cap situation. I love DI bass, Avalon DI, Sansamp DI, both into the Burl, and it rules. So I have the mothership 24 ins, 32 outs, and I use the Vancouver summing mixer. With the mixing, every element gets its own voice, it seems. To where when you're mixing in the box and the computer's trying to figure out how, you know, all the instruments are gonna fight each other to get through the speaker, you have these dedicated outputs with the 32 outs into the summing mixer that I feel gives everybody space. They're not fighting each other, and I can get the detail that I want and the warmth that I want. You know, you get this natural kind of tape saturation. The harmonic content is fuller. It just felt like there was an extra sub layer on the kick drum automatically. The detail was there. When I started using the Burl stuff, I was hitting it really hard and seeing how far I could push it. And then I started to, okay, what happens if I'm doing something quiet and soft and small? And it worked out wonderfully for both situations. I mean, I think that if somebody's looking for a new converter, Burl is the only choice. It's a total game changer. There's nothing that I've ever heard that sounds like it, but it doesn't make everything sound alike. You have total creative control of what it's going to sound like depending on what you're feeding into it and how you're manipulating it on the way out. It changed my game 30%, like overnight. I think it's probably the biggest upgrade as far as my sound is concerned with one gear purchase.